everybody, and welcome to the Wrestling Archives podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm your co-host, Rich Sigwald.
Thanks for joining us today. We've got a special something, a little something different, a little out of the ordinary for us. It's summertime. We're traveling all over the place. I've been in New Orleans. Rich is going to the beach. I'm going to a wedding, and we've kind of run out of time to record the brand new content that we know you love and expect, but we've got a little special treat for you.
A couple months ago, we had the extreme privilege to speak with David Crockett on our show of the famed Crockett family and the Mid-Atlantic Territory promotion, Jim Crockett Promotions. You might recognize him from being one of the voices of World Championship Wrestling with Tony Schiavone, the famous spot of him taking the sickle from Nikita Koloff, the getting hit in the head by a camera by accident, and taking an elbow from Dusty Rhodes, and just the poor guy just kept taking it on the chin for his family for years, and he is just an encyclopedia of wrestling history and was just a great chat.
Yeah, we so around the end of 2023, we got a call from our friend George Pantis, of course, former commissioner of Virginia Championship Wrestling, just all around kind of big name in the Mid-Atlantic wrestling history, just a guy that everybody knows, everybody loves. He's pretty much the de facto mayor of Norfolk, I think. Literally everybody here knows George. And George called us up because VCW had a show coming up at the Masonic Temple. He knows David Crockett from their time in and out of the business together. He asked, "Hey, would you guys be interested in talking to David Crockett?" So, I mean, obviously we said, "No way, that's dumb." No, we said, "Yeah, hold on, let me unship my pants, and then we can arrange that." So, all credit goes to George for helping us arrange this. And, true to his word, we turned on the computer and there sat David Crockett in his in his office at home, his podcast setup. He does quite a few of these kinds of things. Super nice guy, very professional guy, as Rich said, just an encyclopedia of wrestling knowledge. And we had a really nice time talking to him. We had all these scripted questions, but then we kind of just sort of went off and had an actual conversation. I think that was where the episode really kind of turned into something special for me anyway. I appreciated hearing about sort of his family's history and some of the things that they did before wrestling that was kind of all new to me, and just some really fascinating stuff there I wasn't aware of. And then, of course, his various memories of people in the business. He's got some good Ric Flair stories, some of which he told us on the mic and some of which he told us after. So we're going to keep the curtain on those for him, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the thing that we should mention, is that we talked to David Crockett on air for about an hour and a half. But we had a solid half-hour chat before we even pushed the record button, and we quickly all right, we should stop talking and we should hit the record button so we can get to something. And then after we turned off the mics, we continued to talk for, I don't know, another hour, and just the stories kept rolling, and the conversation drifted away from wrestling for a while and just our families and just about life. And there was also some fascinating things that would happen in the interview too that I thought was quite a fascinating window, because it was very clear that he wanted to share the story of his family, share the story of professional wrestling through the Mid-Atlantic eyes. But we would ask him a question, and then he would be like, I don't know. And then suddenly you just hesitate for a second and he starts talking about it. In particular, we asked him about, because he had mentioned on another podcast, and they didn't follow up on this. He mentioned that The Rock came through WCW and they turned him away. And that other podcast just just kept rolling along, just like took that as like whatever. And we were like, wait, what?
Stop the presses.
And so we asked David about that, and he was like, oh, I wasn't in on the decision and stuff like that. And then 30 seconds later, he's just talking about how he talked with the talent agents about The Rock, and how it was like one of the mistakes and one of the big signs that WCW was just like not getting it, because the older guys were like, yeah, that guy's got it, and then but the executives didn't see anything in him. And I mean, the rest is history, obviously, but that was just some insights that I had never heard. And and I'm one of these nerds that just sits here and reads wrestling Wikipedia pages like all day and stuff. So
it's true. Rich is a giant nerd. Yeah, there was, there's definitely a little bit of the kind of keeping kayfabe with him, kind of keeping the curtain drawn a little bit. But right, and then you kind of give him a little space, and then I think he's just a born talker, and he's a born storyteller, and he's just an outgoing, friendly guy, and he just wants to talk. He loves wrestling, and he's done a lot of stuff, and he wants to tell you all about it. So anyway, well, we hope you enjoy the interview. Sorry we don't have new content for you, but we'll get through these vacations so much with the traveling and the relaxing and the drinking in warm places, and we will get right back on some brand new content. We've got WWE SummerSlam coming up, so maybe we can work on some older stuff around that, or I don't know. There's all kinds of things we could do. So all right, without further ado, here is our interview with David Crockett. But we are so pleased to welcome legendary wrestling announcer, executive, all-around cool guy, David Crockett.
Oh,
welcome,
thank
David.
you. Thank you. Tim and Rich, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is a pleasure.
Thanks so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Rich maybe joked that we should change our name to All the Starcades instead of All the WrestleManias for today. And congrats. We saw you just had a 50th wedding anniversary.
That's right. Can you believe it? She
No.
Believe it or not, I'm the last one, a family of four guys and girls, and one girl, that I'm the only one still married to the same person. I was the last one to get married, too. So I was 28 when I got married.
Smart.
Yes.
Oh, that's fabulous. My grandparents on both sides made it to 50. My parents made it to 40, so that was pretty cool.
That's above the average.
Yeah, and I'd say you're a definite outlier with the wrestling business having a marriage or any kind of relationship lasting that long.
That is very true. My children suffered. My wife suffered. Every Christmas we had shows. Every holiday we had shows. Yeah. So anniversaries, birthdays, graduations, plays, you name it. I wasn't there, but I am there for my grandchildren. I can say that. Yeah.
How many have you got?
I have four, a boy and a girl with my son, a boy and a girl with my daughter. Daughter lives in Raleigh, and my son is here in Charlotte.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. Well, that's cool. You can send them home at the end of the day.
That's right.
That's the best part, right?
Give them a lot of sugar and jack them up and send them home.
Well, so we thought we'd start by asking you about your relationship with George Pantis, who's been around the wrestling business for of course, a long, long time, and just kind of wanted to know a little bit about how long you've known George, how you originally met.
Wow.
We'll go from there.
I originally met George at a wrestling match, of course, in Norfolk. He was, I guess, a fan, at that time. It's been so long ago. He's been around. It's sort of like the sun. It comes up in the morning. And so, every morning, George is always there. So, yes, as long as I can remember, George was at the Norfolk Scope and the Hampton Coliseum, and sometimes he'd be to Richmond, but, I'd always see him. And he's always questions. He's got questions that you look and say, why are you asking that? But yes, he's been there. He's a mainstay, I guess you might say. And then he's gone on as far as I know some footage that we needed. He had some. So, he's an encyclopedia of wrestling in this area.
Yeah, he certainly is, and he knows just about everybody. Everybody loves George. Everybody gets all excited when he comes out at the shows. So will this be your first time at a VCW show in this current incarnation?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It will be a first time. I am anxious to see what goes on. I'm not anxious to see George retire, but I understand. At some point, he's got grandchildren, and so that's a big part of his life. So I can definitely understand why he wants to spend time, with the grandchildren.
Yeah, I think I'm sure you'll have a good time at the show. Yes. They do a fantastic job. They have some really great talent. I think that card should be a fun one. And one more for me before I give it to Rich is, so what does it mean to you to help your friend and your colleague celebrate this retirement from the business after all these years?
I am honored that George asked me. I really am. I mean, to have him think enough to ask me to come, yes, and it gives me a chance. Believe it or not, I'm going to stop in Raleigh to see my daughter and my grandchildren there. I'm going to drive. I'm going to pretend it's just like a regular Norfolk, because it used to be, we'd do TV. We'd have Dorton Arena Tuesday, TV Wednesday there, WRL TV, and then Thursday, Norfolk. So I'm going to do the Norfolk trip. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. It really, George, he's more than a wrestling personality that I know. He's become a very good friend, and I hope I am a friend to him. It works both ways.
That's fantastic. You guys are both lucky to have such friends like that in your life. It's a top notch and blessing.
In the wrestling business, few and far between. Yeah. Really, I mean, it's always watching your back, and it's not. There were some wrestlers that definitely you had to watch your back. Then there are others that that you, if you stop real fast, they'd run into you. They were chasing you around. I want to be, PG on this, not PG, family oriented.
Well, then we'll try to be family oriented. As I'm sure many of our listeners know, is that you are basically attached to one of the royal families of professional wrestling, the Crockett family. Your last name is synonymous with the NWA and just in general with pro wrestling and pro wrestling's incredible history. So I've been reading about Jim Crockett Promotions, and I found it extremely fascinating that you guys also did theater and minor league baseball team. Right. And concerts and all that kind of stuff, and hockey too. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And I was just wondering how you guys landed on wrestling being the big.
It started with my father. He started in boxing, not a boxer. He was helping a man put out posters and advertising up in Bristol, Virginia, Tennessee, and he gradually worked in. He managed a boxer and promoted boxing, and it ended up in the Virginias, Carolinas, and then he kept on seeing this boxing wrestling commission. What's going on here? So he went to a wrestling match and goes, not sure. Goes sees it. He looks at a few more and then he goes, I can make money at this. So he started promoting boxing and wrestling. And then, of course, the big bands, Tommy Dorsey, Glenn Miller, Dick Clark, Caravan of Stars. We had 72 dates a year on the Harlem Globetrotters, up and down the East Coast of the Mississippi River. Golly, James Brown caught me in the airport one time and found out who I was and got me in a bear hug. And he said, your dad got me out of more trouble. It just my life was not normal. You think about it, as a kid, growing up, taking tickets at show and dances, selling programs, you name it, I did it. Set up rings. I went along and did that to earn money. But, golly, people talked. Well, who'd you see? Who do you want to see? Joe Louis, Jack Dempsey. I saw Joe Louis quite a few times. Let me see. I saw Henry Mancini and Andy Williams. I was there in Charlotte when my father canceled the show because of. Oh, now, see, I am getting old here. Ray Charles came in so drugged up that he could hardly walk. And he said, I am not subjecting my fans to this. Canceled the show, made him come back, didn't pay him. So he had a lot of respect in the entertainment business. We started baseball here in Charlotte. Eddie Murray was Cal Ripken Jr. Oh, it was, Winston-Salem Polar Twins, the hockey team in Winston-Salem, showing dances. My dad did My Fair Lady, the original Broadway cast, made $150. That's what he netted. 150 sold out. Now it was just, but all the cost involved of the Broadway, you don't make much. So, that was something. Just being around people. And I think I talked a little bit earlier that the entertainment business had a social stigma attached to it. A lot of friends of mine their parents were country clubs and so forth. I knew more people in the kitchen and had more fun in the kitchen than I did out front. And that was fine with me. It just, it was just one of those things. But you'd see Big Jim Crockett. I mean, my dad, 450 pounds at one time, bigger than that. But he used to be slim. He also ran restaurants. That's where he kept on, I guess you would say, he didn't have a normal eating schedule. He always snacked all the time. Even late at night, when you come back in town, he'd find sort of a nightclub or a speakeasy that was open, late at night, and he'd go in there and sit in the kitchen and eat. But we've done also, you name it, and we've done it. Elvis Presley, we did some of that before. He was really known. Rodeos, circus. Just so many things.
So did you guys mostly do that Blue Ridge area like that, or did you go all the way to the coast and to Charleston, South Carolina? And
yes,
stuff like that?
North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. You think about it, it was just him for the longest time. Then he had South Carolina. He had Henry Marcus, promoter for part of that from Columbia down. The Murnicks were Raleigh to the East Coast, and Richmond, Norfolk, and then Pete Apostolou was Roanoke and that area in the mountains there. And we did everything else and managed them. So, yes.
Very cool. So I got to tell you that one of my goals with this podcast was to drag Tim kicking and screaming into watching and appreciating the NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW product.
Wait a minute. Oh, he's one of those. WWF.
Well,
that's stand-up wrestling.
There was
that's
very
all
little.
They do, stand up.
There was very little kicking and screaming. It didn't take.
It's all walking
it didn't take
from the
much
back to the ring. That's it.
Well, so Tim grew up in Pennsylvania, but I grew up in Baltimore.
Okay.
And so Baltimore was, and still is a huge wrestling town.
Yes, it is.
And I benefited from having access to watch both WWF and Mid-Atlantic. I'm pretty sure WNUV in Baltimore carried Mid-Atlantic and syndication possibly. But
I think that might. Yeah, we had a station in Baltimore. Oprah Winfrey was on that station when she first started. That was before she had her own show. So
yeah,
yes. Sabatino's in Baltimore. But
Oh, yeah.
they'd always keep it open for us. Woo.
Yeah, they are the
Yes.
spot. But obviously, I also watched WCW on the Superstation at 6:05 every Saturday night. And my mom was actually a big fan of Georgia Championship Wrestling, and was actually who got me into professional wrestling. And she loved Gorgeous George and Ric Flair. And she always told me that she had to tune in to see what that son of a bitch Ric Flair was up to. And so I just want to tell you now, before we really dig in, that like getting to talk to you really brings back some really fond memories of watching wrestling with my mom. And so I really appreciate that you've come on, because like everybody talks about Jim Ross or whoever as being a voice, but you know, your voice on the Superstation 6:05 every Saturday night, asking Ric Flair why he did what's going on with the Four Horsemen and stuff like that, is like my childhood wrestling before like really kicking into like WWF. Like I was aware of like Hulk Hogan, but like, damn it, I knew Ric Flair. I knew the Four Horsemen. Arn Anderson going around beating people up, and that spine buster of his, like that was my jam early on before I started watching anything else.
Do you realize 90% of what we did was ad lib? I mean, you know, even the wrestling match in the ring, you had a certain time limit. Let's say that you thought they were going to, you know, wrestle. You said, all right, you got 15 minutes here. And didn't even know what they were going to do. You know, as you know, somebody else knew that, but we, you know, and didn't want to know who was going to win either. But you know, of course, you had an idea, especially if you have job guys. But those interviews are scream on TBS. I don't know what it was, but it just everybody when we walked in, it was like you've got 20 cups of caffeine and you're just you're ready, and just some of the things. I'd have to take the mic and stand away because I'm sitting there laughing like hell. I could, and you know, Rick, Iron Tully, JJ. What about? Do you remember the gorilla? Do you remember JJ in the gorilla suit in the cage?
Oh yeah.
I'd love to see footage.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know it was coming out. I was such a. I went, what? And Miss Atlanta Lively, Ronnie Garvin dressed in drag. You can't do that now, but God, he just some of the stuff we do. You know, there's no way that it would work if you planned it, because it just wouldn't. You know, you try. All right, we're going to put the camera here and shoot it this way. Nah, it just let's just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real testament to the quality that like that stuff still comes up in viral memes and GIFs, and people still share those videos, those little clips on YouTube. The styling and profiling clip is everywhere, you know, and it's, you know, that's almost 40 years ago, and that stuff is still mainstream. And I was just rewatching some of it the other day after we found out that you were willing to talk to us, and I was like, and I'm watching it, and I can't. It's unbelievably good, and it's still fresh and present. Like it's an actual, like that could have been filmed yesterday. Like, you know, it looks so modern.
Rick is better known today than he was yesterday. He is. I mean, he's got a whole new generation of people that enjoy watching him, listening to him. You know, all of them. You know, Arn Anderson with his one-liners, Tully Blanchard. They, you know, and I know their interviews are just unbelievable. But you think about Ric Flair, or even Tully's done it. They've all done it, wrestling an hour and have the fans on their feet. And I asked him, I said, how do you do that? You know, I don't see you talking. He said, you just know. especially when you've got pros in there like they are. You know what you're going to do. You know, react to whatever they're doing. You do, and it's. I guess it's sort of like chess, back and forth. And it just works. Because I was a referee, for some of those Nikita Koloff Ric Flair matches. They didn't say anything. I take that back. They said, "Get out of the way."
Yeah. One of the things that we did with our podcast was that we've slowly worked through the Ric Flair Ricky Steamboat feud, and we actually ended with their 1 hour long best 3 out of 3 falls match, and that is absolute work of art. It's absolutely beautiful. It's an hour of just the most mesmerizing action that I can ever remember seeing.
And Rick came to us. He said, when he was world heavyweight champion, he said, "Guys, I saw this young man in Atlanta, Ricky Steamboat. You need to get him up here." This was before we owned Georgia Championship Wrestling. So we brought him. Same thing with Arn. Arn was at Mid-South. And Rick saw him. He said, "He's an Anderson." So, he did an interview. I said, "Golly, definitely, he's an Anderson." So, yeah, what great times. Yeah, Steamboat and Rick. I had an opportunity to see Ricky Steamboat at a autograph signing in Winston-Salem. He still looks fantastic.
Yeah, he looks like he could go right now. We watched those matches, and they're like jazz. They're just two amazing, talented, prepared performers just riffing off of each other. And there's no seams, there's no lulls, there's no, except for where they want them to be. It's really for people who, So just a little aside, the VCW show here at ODU kind of ran into a little bit of trouble. Some of the stuff that you were talking about in terms of, low culture, not sophisticated enough or whatever. And I think, there are some stereotypes and some negative impressions of wrestling. But to have somebody that tells you that wrestling's not a work of art, I just tell them, just go sit down and watch. You don't have to watch all 3. Just sit down and watch one of those and then come back and tell me that there's not, a serious level of artistic achievement here. So. And
psychology. Think about this. To me, they are listening to the fans as they go. And, they hear them. And they can take them. It's like what I do when I go to a movie. I put my mind in neutral, and I just let it take me. And that's what fans do. They go, and they want you to pick them up. They don't want you to slam them down, but take them up and then bring them down a little bit, then keep them up and just keep going back and forth. And it's a beautiful experience. It is a work of art.
Yeah, especially with that storyline between the two where, Ricky Steamboat is the family, hard-working man. Right. He's the common guy. He's fighting for you. And then you have Ric Flair, who's not necessarily the bad guy because he does bad things, but he's the bad guy because he's able to do all the things you wish you could, and you wish deep down that you were like him, with the confidence and the money and the women, and you just have this great conflict between them too. So like, it's not just like watching that match, but then you got to watch the promos before it and be completely engulfed in that story.
True. And, with Rick, he was Ric Flair 24/7. He lived it. You can ask the Internal Revenue about it. He just, wow. It's still amazing how I want to say he's still alive. He shouldn't be with us. I went down, to Atlanta, and I thought I was saying my last goodbye to him. And here they have to get him alcohol drip because he's going through the DTs. So And he still comes out of it. And then he says, well, I'm going to wrestle again. He goes, you're totally out of your mind. No, going to do it. Okay. Here he goes.
Well, since we're talking about all this stuff here, we have a couple questions. Sure. Just on like so did you have a favorite person to interview, like someone that got you really excited that you saw them and like the teleprompter that they're the next one coming up to talk to you? Was there anyone that is like, oh man, this is gonna be crazy? Or
well, the first time I saw Magnum TA, Terry Allen, Virginia Beach, I saw him. Didn't do an interview with him, but he was at the matches. He was a bouncer at one of the clubs that everybody would go to after Norfolk. You look and go, he's got the look. Yeah, he's definitely got the look. And then when he goes on camera the first time, you go, oh my God, this is it. And it's a shame what happened. That he was the man. He was going to be the man. Everything was, if you want to say planned out, we knew that if anybody, it was going to be Magnum TA that would be the next world heavyweight champion. And he, the biggest problem with that would be, here he's a good guy, and in some areas he would have to be bad. But the thing is, I've seen him snicker and stuff. He could be a real bad guy. He can have that look and the eyes. The camera would just drool over him. Would. But yes. And then Nikita, definitely. Here he walks in. He did it hook, line, and sinker, 100%. Changed his name, everything. Someone that I really thought would go is Bill Goldberg, and it just, at WCW at Turner just didn't last long enough because I saw him in the training center, saw his work, his interviews. We wouldn't let him talk for probably 6 weeks. Serious, we didn't know what was going to come out of his. Can you imagine? Bill Goldberg. Can you hear a squeaky voice? No.
He's done. Yeah, he's done after that.
Done.
Yeah.
Cooked. Gone. But yeah, I mean, golly. Roddy Piper. I'm going on. I had a lot of favorites. Roddy, it wasn't the first time, he'd been around, but then when he came to us, he was part of that, I guess you might say, the Ric Flair Rat Pack. Oh, God. Those guys, and I would drive and Roddy'd ride with me, and he is writing the whole time of things he'd hear on the radio, things he would read to put, in his interviews. He would I am so happy that when he went to WWF at the time that he really took off. And two, he also told them, and he never did, that he would not come in our area. He said, I won't do it. I won't do it to him. That is a great person.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just watching the episode of Mid-Atlantic where him and Abdullah the Butcher rough up Wahoo McDaniel. And you guys are like, we have to show it to you edited because it is too graphic. And Piper is just like going crazy on the outside of the ring. And Abdullah's got that fork or whatever, like, I swear it's like an inch deep into Wahoo McDaniel's head, and it's just and the intensity that Piper brought, not even when he's like talking or in the ring, just his physical presence was insane.
Yeah, and then you had Abdullah. My nickname for him was Spanky. Don't ask me where I got it from, but I was, hey Spanky, and he lived in Atlanta, and oh golly, now he'd bleed if you touched him. And Wahoo about the same way, was Wahoo. He'd probably, before the match, he'd take a bottle of aspirin, just so he just would bleed, like it's serious. That's just one of the things, but he would bleed like a stuck pig.
So do you have a favorite match that you've called?
Wow. Rock and Roll Express and the Russians. We were in Shelby, North Carolina, and we did that. Bob Caudle and I was hoarse after that. I mean, they came out and I was standing up the whole time. I mean, that you want to talk about just excitement. That was a keep you standing the whole time. And, here you have small guys against the big guys. And also at that time, you had America against Russia. So, and it hit.
Yeah, the Rock and Roll Express were incredible. The Russians were incredible. So a lot of people refer to the Jim Crockett Promotions as like a tag team.
That they did.
Territory. Yeah. And the tag teams that came out of you guys is just incredible. And it's almost hard to fathom that like everybody isn't watching like Jim Crockett's Monday Night Raw right now. Like it blows my mind just the amount of talent that came through. And
we messed up. Let's put it that way. We messed up, and some egos got in the way of good business sense in a lot of ways. And also at that time with WWF, Vince could offer more as far as money that we could not. Yes, and believe it or not, we did. We bought the rights to TBS from Vince to help save us, and we financed the first WrestleMania for him. So, a lot of people say we shot ourselves. We did. When we bought Mid-South from Bill Watts, we did not pay attention and do our due diligence. And a lot of his past debts, when I say a lot, quite a few, came up. He was paying TV stations and didn't pay them, and his production hadn't paid that, and he had an office building that he leased for X number. It just, Dusty and Jimmy wanted to move to Dallas. Jimmy wanted to start a new life with his new wife. Dusty wanted to be in Texas, and you can't divide an office. We need to be in one place. So, and that's it. That's it for that one. Hindsight's 2020. Paul Beckham, who used to be CFO, Turner Broadcasting, left, and he and Bob Hope, who brought the Braves to Atlanta, started a company, and then Bill Shaw left when Time Warner bought Turner. Bill Shaw used to be he was one of the original Turner guys. And so when Bill took us over, he was the only one at Turner Broadcasting that actually liked us. You talked to him today, and he said the most fun he ever had at TBS was us, because we were Ted's redheaded stepchildren. And we loved it. We'd shove it in their face because we got better ratings. We cost less than any of the sports that he had. But did they hate us? I don't know. I've just lost track. I'm diarrhea of the mouth here. What were we talking about?
No.
No, you're right on target.
I've been reading about the Black Saturday where Vince McMahon showed up on the TBS thing, and like if you watch that, it just looks totally unnatural.
We knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, did you guys get concerned when like McMahon bought out the Briscoes and Ole and
yes,
moved into that time slot? Like, was that like, hey, kind of like should we do something? Or
yes, we really didn't want to travel. Come on, we just didn't. You have a family, and when you talk about Baltimore, Philadelphia, when you talk about expanding, well, that means more time away from home. That means more expense. That means more people, and. Yeah, it was bad. And also we sort of blindsided that it was in the background, Jim Barnett who went to work for Vince right after that, was one of the owners of Georgia Championship Wrestling. Well, I called him Talleyrand, that he always surfaces to the top, no matter which regime was coming in. I'm serious. Look, he ended up with us, at WCW.
Yeah.
It was a bad mistake, but they too didn't want us. They were afraid of us. The different owners down there. I mean, the Briscoes were part owners in Florida. Right. So, Dusty was a part owner in Florida. Golly, I don't know how many people were owners of Florida. We tried to help them out. We tried to do was to help the other promotions out, which ended up hurting us, by the way.
Right.
It's their, send us talent. You're going to pick up transportation, aren't you? Them talking back to us, I'm going, well, why would you want to do that? But, we thought that if we could keep them afloat, it would keep Vince away from us. But that wasn't the case. And we got screwed, with payoffs and everything else. The guys didn't want to go because they weren't being paid correctly. So, and that's when we bought a G1. Which actually made sense. And it held 16 people, all their equipment, good ranges about 500 miles. That you could fly them in. You don't worry about cars and so forth. Drop them off, bring another group, drop them off, let them rent their cars and spend a week, come back, pick them up, and take them. So I didn't like it, but it worked. But the Falcon 20, no, that caused trouble. Who's going to be on the list to sit in the Falcon 20? And I said, not me.
I think we have our new theme song, Rich. For you to need to clip the Falcon 20 song and put it on a loop.
Well, see, Jimmy also named the jet Stardust. So you know what that did to the Four Horsemen. Golly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So moving back from the business side of things to the in front of the camera side again, just briefly. I know you sort of famously didn't want to go into announcing, and I know you've told that story before how you ended up in that role. Do you mind retelling it? I know it's an old chestnut. Do you mind retelling it for our listeners?
Tom Miller, who was Truckin' Tom Miller, WBT-AM, they were 100,000 watt station at night, and you'd hear Tom from Florida to Maine. And Tom had a great voice. And we asked him to be one of the announcers because we were doing two different programs at WRL. Bob Caudle was the main on this, and then we had Tom Miller and I want to say Les Thatcher or somebody, doing the other. Well, one day he showed up and he was slurring his words, so to speak. So can't put him on. I look at Jimmy. Jimmy looks at me. We flip a coin, and I lost. So I had to start announcing. So, I wanted to be behind the TV camera. That's my love, is being behind the camera, the equipment, the switcher, just watching it and watching at that time we had 6 cameras, when we eventually got our own TV truck, and watching and learning. Emerson Lawson was my engineer, and Emerson came from Jefferson Production. He had an Emmy from the Winter Olympics when America beat Russia. He was the tape operator for that. He was my technical director, engineer, you name it. He was it. Yeah. And I have to say, Emerson, I loved him to death, but I'm allergic, believe it or not, to a lot of smoke. Well, Emerson was a chain smoker. And have him doing TD, and I'm directing, and he's sitting there trying, and he's not smoking. He's going, a little nuts. And so every time we get a break, he'd go outside and smoke 4 cigarettes, then come back in. But yeah, and my brother Jimmy the same way. He probably smoked 3 packs a day. Yeah, and he'd ride my car and it's no smoking. So I stop and get gas, and he's so. Matter of fact, come to think of it, my brothers and sister, I'm the only one that did not smoke. I don't smoke today. So I've got asthma. Maybe that's a good reason.
Yeah. Got to preserve your instrument for the microphone.
That's right.
So many folks have been critical of your announcing style, but I actually kind of always liked it because it was.
I know, and that's it hurt my feelings. Come on, it hurt me.
I'm sure.
Cry. No.
Yeah, it was very clear that you were an enthusiastic fan watching, and I mean. I think a lot of Pat McAfee when he was calling WWE. Mm-hmm. It's very similar. Just you weren't standing on the desk and dancing when people came out. But like nothing helps the fans more than to know who to cheer for, than an announcer getting worked up and being happy.
But I could not be false though. I could not. If a match was dead, I couldn't hype it. And it depended on what was there. And my brother would scream in my ear every now and then, and I just sort of take my headset off and just not listen to him.
Well, I mean, that makes the product better, right? When you can't cover up badness, then they got to get better so that the announcer's better, right?
That comes to a story. Jimmy was on my headset one time, and he was trying to tell me the finish. And, this is what they're going to do. And guess what? They didn't do it.
Oh, no.
And I'm going, okay, background, please tell me, is this real or not? It pissed him off big time.
That's
yeah,
good.
I was a fan. And it bothered me that I got people would beat me out about that, but I'm going, why? I'm not polished. Am I supposed to be polished? What is it about? Were they upset that I did get excited about it? I don't know.
Right. I think that's actually one of my biggest gripes about having to listen to Michael Cole. And I don't want to trash talk anyone that you might be friends with, but I mean, I feel like Michael Cole just doesn't have that excitement that you had or Jim Ross has when calling things, that genuine push into it. He has more of he's just reporting the news kind of delivery sometimes, and it loses that punch. You need that excitement in your ear to match the excitement that's happening on the screen for you. So do you have any idea why the people came after you with this?
I do not know. I wish I did. And no one, who was it that didn't like me? I can't remember his name now. But I said, why? He said, I just don't like you. What? Well, okay. But, you look at Jim Ross, and Jim, truly, he's another one of those that if he's bored with a match, he's bored.
Yeah.
He's finished with it. And he put a knife in it. Just he can't get excited about something that's not exciting.
Yeah, he's kind of like John Madden. When John Madden called football games and the game would be a blowout, John Madden would be talking about the restaurant he went to the night before during the game or something like that. I always wondered if whenever Jim Ross started talking about a wrestler's former football career, if that's what was happening. Such and such played running back at Appalachian State or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you know that, Jim Ross? And are you bored? Is that why you're telling us this?
Yes, he is bored. And that's,
So, obviously, one of the other big things that you'll always be remembered for is that Russian sickle clothesline from Nikita Koloff.
Guess what? I remember it too.
I'm surprised, honestly. That attack, kicked off the second big feud between Koloff and Flair, and that was one that drew a whole bunch of money. And Flair, of course, came to your defense. And so, first of all, was that as stiff as it looked?
Yes, it was. By the way, yes, and Jimmy didn't ask me. I didn't know anything. Again, it was Shelby, North Carolina, when we were doing television, and Sandy Scott came to me and said, David, we've been talking, and there's something that we would like you to do. Mm-hmm. Okay. What is it? Yeah. Well, we would like for Nikita to give you the sickle. I went, sure. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I was very apprehensive, and for good reason, because Nikita said, this is one sickle I'm going to thoroughly enjoy giving. And he did. He didn't hold back. I didn't know when it was coming. I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when. And it was, I've said it before, it's like running, when you're playing kick the can or hide and go seek late in summertime, it's totally dark, and you're running through, and all of a sudden a neighbor's got a clothesline out there. And you got, that's the way it was. I'm talking to Ivan, and all of a sudden I'm on the floor. And I just laid there saying, okay, is this bone all right? That bone? I've got my teeth.
Are you still in touch with Mr. Koloff? I know he officially changed his name, which I always thought was I always admired that commitment,
Yes, I've talked to him recently. It was earlier this week. We were doing the thing for Ric Flair's last match. He lives, outside of Charlotte, and went to talk to him, and he still got that gruff voice, he still looks great. It was good to see him. Very good to see him.
Yeah, I just seen him at a show up here outside of Baltimore about 6 months ago, and he looked like $1 million and probably ring ready still. Yes, it looked like. Yes. So with you taking that bump, we know that you did some in-ring training that went by the name David Finlay.
Yes.
So how long did you train, and with who, and what made you stop?
Asthma, a big thing. Asthma, yeah. And I was getting tired of getting the shit beat out of me. Yeah. I could count all the lights in the ceiling of all the arenas. I just, I was a job guy. And and I was an amateur wrestler in high school, just, and dad came to me and said, nobody in the family knows the wrestling end of it. We know the promotion end, but not the wrestling end. And decided to want to know when they are telling you something, is it really true or not? That wrestlers are quick to exaggerate things, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And so I did it. I trained with Rip Hawk. I trained with Gene Anderson quite a lot, Ole. Those and Johnny Heidemann he was a sort of a job guy, not up and down middle, for my father for many, many years. And so, he was a preliminary guy. So, and eventually was a sheriff in Roanoke, Virginia. So, so did that, and I wrestled him quite a few times starting out. But that was the reason. Just for me to continue. Why we're not making me a star of anything. It's to understand the wrestler and what they go through, and if their injuries correct. I mean, people I ran with, Jerry Briscoe, Thunderbolt Patterson, when they were here, I mean, wow, I ran with a rat pack too. I was single at the time, so I said, why not? So I did it, and the better for it. Landing, on your back the right way, because first you're not doing it the right way. A drop kick. You might call it a knee kick. When I first tried, getting up, was a little different, and you'd have to drop kick the top turnbuckle. That's how you practice. You just kept on doing that until you'd learn how to do it and land correctly. That's another thing. How do you land? And taking the backdrop and Sweet Hansen being slammed by him. He's so tall. He even wrestled Brute Bernard. He just beat me mercifully.
Did you have any moves that were like especially that you felt like you really like had it? You were like that was your thing.
Nah. Mostly I was running.
That's a move.
Yeah, that's a move. I was just there to. I was the punching bag. If they didn't like the payoff, who they take it out on.
Hey, running away is all right. Discretion's the better part of valor and all that.
Yeah,
that's my move.
I wanted to be a heel, but they wouldn't let me. I always had to be the baby. Baby face is going to lose. You have to, for the crowd, kiss the babies and all that.
Well, it always seemed like the heels had more fun.
That's right. Look at Rick and the guys, but they paid for it though. Wow.
So we know in the last few years you've been sort of dipping your toes back into the wrestling world a bit. I know you've been working with Tony Schiavone on his podcast, and you did some appearances on AEW and the old JCP territory, and of course the involvement with the Crockett Cup. I think we did that this past summer again, right?
Right.
I'm just curious about your decision to come back and where you see your involvement in the wrestling business going from here. Is it something that you think you'd like to continue?
Well, tell you the truth, I thought I might have had a place at AEW, but that didn't happen. Just did. They were doing the dark match thing before, and then adding some stuff on YouTube. I thought, okay, I'm not looking for the spotlight, or just, I miss it. Come on, you do it for your whole life, and then not do it, and then that time with AEW with Tony, it's like giving an alcoholic a drink and going, it was really, I enjoyed it. I did. I enjoyed it and truly missed it. Billy Corrigan asked me to come for the Jim Crockett Cup. I did, and I thought maybe something helping him behind the scenes. I don't see it. I wish I could help him. I just, he says, I'll call you. It's like checks in the mail or something. But I wish him the best. I know that he's got a place at CW now. They're creating a channel along with the ACC. So that he's going to need, help if he'll accept it. That's the challenge, which it was a challenge for me when I was doing our production for our own company. I didn't understand. Everybody said, well, you need a production manager. I'm going, why? I'm doing all this. They said, yeah, but look what you are doing. I'm going, oh. And I went through 7 production managers before I found somebody that we fit. And the same thing with each department. I went through a lot of different people and companies until I found people I could trust to go on and handle something else. And Billy and Tony Khan, they all are going to have to, at some point, trust people to let them do their job. There's no way they're going to come close, to WWE. I mean, WWE is a behemoth. Their production is A+ and better. Their talent is fantastic. They have the training camp. Terry Taylor's down there with them, and they go out and sort of draft people and see what they can do. So you can't be like WWE. You need to be different. If you want to compete with them, and not going to happen. No,
Yeah.
It's just not. It's like, golly, I don't know. Maryland up against Georgia. There you go. It's
Yeah.
I just don't see it happening. It's the first time I went to see
No.
University of North Carolina football team. I said, this reminds me of high school. But it's just and I was in military school in Sweetwater, Tennessee, and a friend of mine, classmate Joe Wallen, asked me to come to Knoxville, and we went to a football game, Tennessee football game, Thanksgiving, 100,000 people. That was heaven. The rivers, all these boats, and there's parties going on everywhere. It's a different world. Different world.
I was at Maryland when they joined the Big Ten, and so all of a sudden we went from the ACC to the Big Ten, and we got teams like Northwestern and Penn State. Like, this is not going to go particularly well,
right?
No.
So,
and it did not. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Maryland, the ACC is primarily known for basketball.
Yeah.
Lefty Driesell, Maryland. Yep. He was here at Belmont Abbey, Davidson College, then Maryland. Just what a character.
I was there through a good bit of the Gary Williams days, if you watched much back then, and it was good. It was a good team.
Yeah. Well, it was a good conference. Good. I'm sorry to see when South Carolina left. The ACC, but it all has to do with money. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why the ACC is doing their thing, their channel, I guess.
Everybody's got a channel. ODU's in the Sun Belt Conference. I think they've got a channel, or if not, they'll have one soon.
So speaking of trying to compete with WWE, we wanted to ask you a couple questions about your time with WCW. You were resistant to the Ted Turner buyout, correct?
Oh, yes.
What was your driving force behind being resistant to billionaire Ted coming in and buying up the family business?
Because it wouldn't be a family business anymore, that we would be corporate, that we could not do what we really wanted to do. And it took my mother to convince me, because even Ric Flair, he didn't want to go to Ted, or I should say to Turner Broadcasting. And I talked to people about coming in, buying. At one point, Jefferson Production wanted to come in with us, but Jimmy would already set his. Matter of fact, Jimmy had already made his deal and got a check, which I found out later. So Jimmy and I didn't speak for quite a few years, but that broke the family up, and there was a lot of things that were wrong with it. But the funny thing about it, I'm the one that survived. Think about it.
Yeah.
And two, Ted Turner was the only person at that time at Turner Broadcasting that wanted us. He wanted us. He saw the potential. He saw the ratings. But when he bought us, he could not find anyone on the board of directors to take us. So he made Jack Petrick take us. And Jack Petrick, shortly after he took us, it wasn't that long. I guess a year, maybe 2 years, if that. I'm not sure. He brought in Jim Hurd right away, and that was military trying to herd cats. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Like Jim, but it just didn't work with these wrestlers. So, and then Jack Petrick retired, and then we went through all these different people from Turner wanting, and then finally it came to Bill Shaw. Bill Shaw was head of HR. He was an original Ted Turner person, and he sort of put his hand up and he said, "I'll take him." What a fantastic individual. He would let you take ownership in what you were doing. And he said, this is what you want. Good. But this is your responsibility, not anybody else's. Don't put the blame on anybody. You're responsible for it. And it worked. Matter of fact, when he came in, he was looking for executive vice president. And of course, I raised my hand, and he had lunch with me. And he said, "David, are you really serious?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "What's your last name?" I said, "Crockett." He said, "You just answered your question." He said, "We can't let a Crockett, even though it'd probably be the best thing in the world. No, can't do it. It won't be Turner Broadcasting, won't be Ted Turner. I have this young guy, Eric Bischoff, that I'm going to put him in charge, but you have to protect him. You have to, he doesn't know, and, he's got some great ideas, but you have to protect him." And I did. I had a lot of knives in my back. And a lot of nights at Jocks and Jill's, which was the bar restaurant there at CNN Center, where Eric was so concerned about, I can't do this. I'm a failure. I can't do it. So I'd have to drive him home, because he couldn't drive. But he got through it. And then the Turner was bought by Time Warner, and Bill Shaw left. And Bill Shaw, I asked him if I could be his baggage handler, because he was put in charge of all Ted Turner property. All that stuff out west in South America, that was what Bill did. He was HR for that. And you go out to Ted's ranch. How much land do you have, Ted? As far as you can see on a clear day. And you kill a rattlesnake on my property, you're fired. He was big history. Just look up Gettysburg. He did the movie Gettysburg.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
The board of directors screaming and yelling about that one. The budget, of course, he tripled it, from whatever it was. But good movie. It really was. And that's why his son is named Rhett. Gone with the Wind. So, yeah.
So I have one more question about your WCW thing, and just because for time thing here. About a year ago, you mentioned on the Snake Pit with DDP that The Rock rolled through WCW. Yes, he passed on him. Can you shed more light onto the reasoning for that?
I wish I knew, but I was not part of the inner circle at that time. We had a different office, and I was not near Eric, you might say. For many years I was near him, and I could shield and I could stick my nose in where it shouldn't be. But he had it, and in a lot of ways it was the best thing for him, because the personalities we had there at any given time would stagnate talent and not let them be what they needed to be. They were trying to make them something that they thought they should be. You need to bring that out of them, and we, as a whole, didn't do a good job.
Yeah, because that's definitely counter to the story that the WWE is trying to portray of The Rock's career with that show Young Rock and stuff like that. So, when I heard that my ears perked up. It's like, oh, we need to find out about that. And that's a fascinating little thing.
I don't know why Jody Hamilton was handling the training center, and he remarked to me, he said, "They're stupid. They're totally stupid." And Jody was an old timer, a Missouri baller, and the assassin. He was one of the assassins, and he was one of the bolos. So and Jody knew talent. It's look at Steve Austin. That we had him and blew it. There are so many people that we just, in a lot of ways, to me, bookers should not wrestle too. They should only book. That has always been, to me, a problem is the booker is going to set whomever up to get knocked off by, let's say, if the booker's a baby face, that and by this heel, then he's going to come in and save the day. And, that's one reason we were tag team territory, because George Becker at the time, it was, he and his brother, Bobby Becker. Bobby passed away. So George went through quite a lot of different wrestlers. George was, he wasn't a single wrestler. And the older he got, the slower he got, so you had to have somebody take the bumps. So that answers your questions. But in hindsight, too, I know I'm getting off the subject. With a tag team, you can do so many different things with it. You can go from tag to singles to six-mans and back. There are a lot of different directions that you can go.
You've got that natural dynamic of two guys, two people who are buddies, and then they're not buddies, and then they're mortal enemies, and then they have to get together because something else is on the line. There's, like you said, there's all kinds of options there.
There's so many different ways you can go. With a single, somebody's got to interfere, or he gets beaten down and somebody comes in and save the day, and then eventually that person turns against them, whatever.
So moving up to, we've been talking a lot about the past, and we really love the stories, and we appreciate your willingness to kind of look back with us. That's been fantastic. So moving up to kind of current events for as we get closer to the end here.
George!
I know, yeah, we're going to talk about George, of course, but we also know that you were involved in promoting Ric Flair's quote-unquote last match. I guess that remains to be seen, right?
Right.
Any thoughts on his recent signing with AEW at 74 years of age? And
he would be a good manager, a color guy maybe. There again, he's got to step back and realize he's not in the ring, that he's not the center of attraction. That I know he can do it. It's just, can he? I would like to see it, but I believe it when I see it. He wants to get back in the ring, but after his last match and what happened, no. If he gets in again, he might not get out of it.
I think we all love to see our heroes overcome and go back and do it. But it does come a certain point where it becomes not terribly enjoyable to watch, and you get legitimately concerned about people that you that you care about.
Well, it becomes not a joy but a sadness to see the Ric Flair of old, dancing, clits, all that, to a person gasping for air in the ring, passing out. No. I'd rather remember him the other way.
Yeah, it's actually why I haven't watched that full match. I
can't.
Don't.
Don't. I'll tell you right now, don't. It was hard for me to announce it. I just, he did pass out 3 times. And he was dehydrated. He just wasn't in shape for it, even though I don't know. Yeah, he's the great procrastinator. And he'll tell you he's a functional alcoholic. I love the guy. I love him to death. But, I tell you, if he does it again, I won't watch. No. And I think there'll probably be a lot of people that won't watch.
Yeah,
that charisma's gone, as far as in that ring.
Yeah, I do hope that AEW sort of, if they're going to keep him around, I hope that they sort of protect him from himself and use him in some of those ways that you mentioned. I think he probably has a lot to. Yeah. He definitely has a lot to offer the younger talent there.
Yeah. Well, the vice president of talent is Tony Schiavone. Yeah. Tony's going to have his hands full. He already has his hands full. So with Rick, I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
AEW is really amassed like a brain trust going on over there. You got Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, but now Ric Flair. You got Sting. You got Jeff Jarrett. You got I think Jerry Lynn is working in the back too. I think or something, or was at some point. It's just an incredible amount of knowledge and experience that they've got over there, and I've just been waiting for the payoff.
They don't. Wait a minute. Yes, the knowledge there, but you have to ask them.
Yeah.
The question is not being asked. I asked Jeff, and he said, nobody's asked me anything. Nobody. Tony Schiavone's frustrated. Sorry about that, Tony, but it's micromanaging.
That's just a shame, just because I wasn't the biggest fan of Jeff Jarrett as a wrestler, but, I recognize that he is very savvy and very talented. And when I was at the show that he showed up at in AEW, and I was legitimately excited because I was like, he can help them. Please, he can do this. And great, he's going to have some on-screen role. That's fine, blah, 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 blah. But I want him in the back, sitting down and having hours-long conversations with MJF and Jungle Boy and stuff like that. Just dumping his brain into them to try and make something better and really develop something. And it just still isn't happening, and it's making me sad.
Yes, Jeff is better, let's say, outside the ring, behind the camera than he's great talent, but they would benefit more of his knowledge and experience behind the camera. They would. Sting has knowledge, but can he sort of book? There's not everybody can book. What how do you impart that to somebody else? Old Dominion. You think about students. Some of them. That you won't take a sledgehammer and hit them in the head. Come on here.
Yeah,
wake up. So the talent's there, the knowledge is there. Will somebody actually tap them for that knowledge? I hope so.
Yeah, the students got to meet you halfway. And for the record, Old Dominion University does not condone the smacking of our students in the head with sledgehammers. I feel like I should just say that for the record. I feel like my bosses maybe barely tolerate me having this sideline.
Good for you. It's good for them. It's good for them.
I think so. As far as I know, I'm the only dean of libraries with a wrestling podcast, which
all right, let's talk about
I think that
books.
Makes me incredibly hireable.
Yeah.
Well, so just we really again appreciate your time and your.
You're welcome.
And we're getting towards the end here. I don't want to keep you up too late. So I know that you've been heavily involved in the Red Cross.
Easy there, guys. Easy. Yeah. What did George say? I have a certain bedtime.
No, I have a certain bedtime.
Oh, okay, all right. See, for so many years, I was up late at night that it's hard for me to go to bed, at a decent hour.
Well, hell, we could stay on for another hour. We're about out of questions, but we could make something up, I'm sure. So.
Let's talk about the Virginia Beach and the parties we used to have down at the club down there. Wow.
Yeah, I think we do need like a good Ric Flair story or something here.
Oh, Baltimore. Ric
Yeah.
Flair, the Marriott, hotel.
Oh no.
Well, Rick, with TBS, and always when we're going to Baltimore, he advertises we're going to be there, where he's staying. Girls, guys, forget it. You girls, come on, and they come, and the hotel loves it. Their bar is full. Rick's got a penthouse. Up there, and it's just slammed, and he has Don Perignon and just constantly, and of course Rick, being Rick, he has to disappear for a minute, come back in his robe and his belt, and that's it. Yeah, and Rick is very proud of his Johnson. Very, very proud of his Johnson, and he doesn't mind showing you.
Well,
many a girl have been hit on the back of the head with it.
I think we just found our promo reel. Rich, cut, print it. Ric Flair's proud of his Johnson. Film at 11. Good God. Well, now I feel kind of silly asking you about the other stuff I was going to ask you about.
What was that?
But I don't really want to do like 20 minutes on Ric Flair's Johnson. I don't know how to segue.
No.
We can talk
Terry
about
Allen.
arms.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, we can't, Aaron, we can't talk about it. He won't let me talk about that.
I get it.
No, he's saved his marriage.
Yeah.
Type. So, his life as a four horseman came back to really bite him in the butt. So, but when I went out to Los Angeles and did a thing for Dark Side of the Ring, first thing Aaron said, we were Baby Doll, Aaron, Ricky Morton, and I. He said, "We will not talk about the Four Horsemen, period." I went, "Oh, okay." So I guess Ricky, Baby Doll, I guess we'll just talk and leave him alone.
Yeah. How can you talk about Arn Anderson and not the Four Horsemen? That's
right. I guess we could talk about their wrestling and the teamwork, but not the out of ring entertainment they would provide.
The extracurriculars, as it were.
yeah.
Yes, and there were a few. Yes.
So,
if you only knew. Golly.
It's, maybe once that night you put that 1985 book together for publication there, it's sitting on your desk. We can read all about it.
I've got 95, 96, and 97. The bad part is my father started keeping these books when he first started promoting, and I could not keep them all. I mean, there was so much I had to let go of. Black and white film, that we, the 2-inch tapes that black and white, that because Dad kept every TV show that was produced at WRAL or WBT here in Charlotte. He'd keep a copy, and we had it in the warehouse. And I thought that Turner, when they bought us, they were going to take everything. And I go by the night before the closing of the building, and I look, and all this 3/4 inch, 1/2-inch tape, 2-inch tape, 16 millimeter film. I'm going, oh my God. And then these books. Not enough. And then the Turner people lost all of our tape, by the way, that they took. Yes. That and Georgia Championship Wrestling, they had a copy, and this is when Ann Gunkel and Ray Gunkel were doing it. When Georgia Championship Wrestling first started on TBS, they remodeled the studios, and they sent all of our tapes to what's the company I see all the time? Not Chesapeake. I'll remember it at some point, but it's a mountain.
Iron Mountain.
Iron Mountain, yeah.
Iron Mountain.
My library works with
Group
them right
memory.
now, so.
All right, maybe you can look it up. No, Iron Mountain. Yeah, that's where they sent them, but they've lost them because WWF called me saying, "Where are all of our tapes when they bought us? When they Turner sold us." I said, "Well, they were there. If you check Iron Mountain, they might be there." So now that's a shame because
that's irreplaceable history.
Classic, classics.
Yeah, as a person that is attached to physical media as much as I am, because I have a vinyl collection of about 300 LPs to my right here, it breaks my heart to hear that all of that was lost and not recoverable. Just it's heartbreaking, and there would definitely be a market for publishing those book results, because Tim a couple years ago for either Christmas or my birthday bought me an almanac of every wrestling match that happened at Madison Square Garden. It has all the results, like all the way up through like modern day, like Monday Night Raw on March 12th, blah blah blah, Triple H beat blah blah blah, and like it's all in this book, and it's incredible. And there are other nerds like me out there that would love such a thing, such as like the 1985 results to Mid-Atlantic Wrestling day by day.
And I can also tell you all right, where is it? All right, this is just one of them. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We netted $9,200. Wahoo and Steamboat were on top for the U.S. title.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
That's a hot match right there.
Yeah.
Man.
Incredible.
All right.
So we should probably talk a little bit about VCW. Again, I mentioned at the top of the show, the Tidings of Destruction show is coming up Saturday, December 2nd, Norfolk Masonic Temple, right here on Granby Street in Norfolk. It's going to be a fantastic show. Tickets, etc., at VCWProWrestling.com. I have some details of the card that are coming out down the road, but a couple of big matches that we know for sure. The VCW Heavyweight Champion, The Boar, will defend his title against former Ring of Honor talent Moses, who's a big old boy, 6 feet, 300 pounds. He's making his much anticipated VCW debut. David, have you seen The Boar yet?
I have not seen The Boar.
You're gonna love
You'll get
him.
a kick out of him. He's like he's like Kevin Nash in a boar mask. So,
oh my word,
you'll love it. The other,
he lives the gimmick too. He was on our show. We had to call him Boar. He never took the mask off. Anything like that, we have no idea who he really is.
That's terrific. And I'm gonna sign autographs and take pictures and do all that.
That'll be awesome.
With the people. Yeah.
We'll also have Brandon Scott, who's another fantastic talent, friend of the show. He's going to face off against the intimidating Joe Keys. And of course, more of your favorite VCW talents in action. And our special guest, of course, David Crockett, will be there to help celebrating the retirement of beloved VCW Commissioner George Pantis. George is retiring from his role as VCW Commissioner in in-ring action, but of course, he will still be in orbit around VCW, and I don't think he's going anywhere. But as far as his kind of public-facing thing, this is it for George. Anything else you want to say about the upcoming show, David? Anything else you're looking forward to?
Well, I look forward to seeing everyone there and getting reacquainted with some old friends or grandchildren and their great-grandchildren that are out there. But, I look forward to celebrating George's retirement, and it's going to be fun. Everybody, please come.
It'll be a great time. The shows are always a lot of fun. And if people want to find out anything else about you and what you're up to, is there any place that they should go to look? Any shows you're doing besides the best one, all the WrestleManias, obviously?
I do a show on this book or with Conrad once. I do one once a month at a time. Other than that, I'm a grandfather. That yard work when I can. Unfortunately, this has prevented me from doing a lot of things because I am right-handed, so it's not good.
Yeah. Will that cast still be on December 2nd?
No.
Oh, that's a shame.
I get it all. Oh, I know. Sickle. I can do George a sickle.
You could crack Jerry. I was thinking that maybe you pull a Cowboy Bob Orton and just keep the cast forever, and just.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe we could.
Every time I see that, all I could think about is how bad that cast must smell. That's...
Well, I was just thinking about that too. We'll put a new wrapping, new cast. So
maybe stuff one of those pine tree air fresheners in there or something, just for,
there you go.
For the kids.
Just fresh or something to put in here. Yeah.
All right. Well, again, we want to thank our special guest, David Crockett. We love talking to you. You feel free to come back anytime. We can.
Oh, I'd love to.
We can stay up late and tell all kinds of stories. And thank you for listening. We're at allthewrestlemanias.com. You can find us at WrestleManiaPod on Twitter. Shoot us an email at allthewrestlemanias@gmail.com. We're happy to get your mail. We're happy to answer your questions on the air. David, any last thoughts?
I just wish everybody the best and keep us all safe.
So for tonight, I'm your co-host, Tim.
And I'm still starstruck Rich.
Signing off, and we'll see you later, everybody.